From Naples, Florida, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DiLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663, or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're addressing what happens when you've been pretending to be someone you're not in your marriage and how exhausting that becomes over time.
And there's a quote from Brene Brown that says, "Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are." And I think as we talk about, pretending to be someone else and all of that within a marriage, you would lose some of that authenticity. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. But first, we start every episode with a hug. And a hug is an opportunity for us to share your ideas, the breakthroughs that you've had, the creative ways that you are tackling situations in your marriage. And this hug comes from a post that was in the One Family Facebook group that says, "Sometimes you just have to have a sense of humor in marriage." My husband and I were talking about fun things to do on Saturday, and I've really struggled in the past 10 years with knowing what would be fun. I answered my husband, "Honestly, I could go for a few days, just you and I on a beach somewhere, laying in the sun with a drink and being able to do what I want, when I want, and how I want, and to have sex whenever we want without anybody around." Well, yesterday he looked at me and said, "Well, how about we send our daughter to her room for some quiet time with some snacks, some water, and her iPad, and tell her to stay there until we come get her. I can put a sign on the end of our bed that says beach, and we can lay there with a drink and have sex whenever we want." "And what about the sun part?" I asked. He said, "I can put a sign over the light in the hallway right there that says sun, because that light is really bright."
With a bunch of emojis.
With a bunch of emojis. I could have been annoyed or mad that he didn't take me seriously and start to plan my vacation, but instead, it made me laugh and appreciate my husband even more for being creative. Even though I know he was more concerned with just being able to have a lot of sex, LOL, I'm okay with that too, because it's nice to be wanted like that still after almost 15 years of marriage. All this to say, don't take your spouse or your marriage so seriously all the time.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. And I can appreciate this hug so much because I think we've said so many times over the years, and it really leans into that recreational intimacy pillar, right? Have fun, like laugh a little bit. In Elise and I have been in this place in our own marriage over the years too, where everything seems so serious.
Sure.
And something like this could trigger one of us, both of us in some sort of way. And many of you could probably relate. And yet, how can we just have some fun, laugh at each other, laugh at the marriage, and not in a way where we're like, oh, like forget it and like we're going to leave, but let's just have some fun and let down and take off the masks.
And that's what we're talking about in today's episode, around this authenticity and pretending to be, pretending to be someone. And this topic came from a powerful conversation that I had with one of the couples that I'm coaching with. And one spouse had said to me and the other spouse, "I feel like I've been putting in a lot of effort for a long time at this marriage, but I've been masking my true self, trying to be someone who fits into a certain mold." And it was an incredibly significant moment because this person was able to acknowledge that they've been wearing masks in their marriage, and that you can put a lot of effort in, but if you're putting in a lot of effort when you're wearing a mask, then you don't really know what's real and what's not. You don't really know if you're being loved for your real self or not. And it turns out that these masks are actually pretty common in marriage. I see it in a lot of my coaching couples. And, according to Merriam-Webster, you guys all know Merriam and I are like, best buds when it comes to, terms and definitions and whatnot. But a mask is a covering worn on the face to conceal one's identity. That's the, like if you think about Halloween, right? Kids put their mask on. But the verb definition of the word mask is defined as to hide or conceal something, such as one's actions or feelings. So when we mask in marriage, we're concealing our true identity, our actions, or our feelings from the person who should know us best.
So it's a verb.
We're generally not sticking, I don't know, Mickey Mouse masks on in our marriage. We are masking.
Right. And that's what I'm just wanting to make that distinction, because this is the verb definition of hide or conceal something such as one's actions or feelings. And it could feel like we're putting on a physical mask, right? Like
sure.
we can almost feel the sensation of something is being put on us, even though it's not visible to the other person or even to us. But when we're talking about the masks, and we've talked about this a lot, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about tender topics. And like, are we willing to take off those masks? And I shared with you guys the book, Beau's Cafe. Stellar book. Again, I'll put it here in our episode notes for you guys, because I do believe that book portrays what can happen in life, in marriage, when we begin to put on the verb mask.
And we do the action.
Right.
Right. And, throughout this episode, we're just going to share in different ways some of the masks that maybe you or your spouse have picked up and put on, the different ways that you mask your emotions, your actions, or your feelings. And it'll come out in different ways in this conversation. But, some that you might be really familiar with, just to kick us off, are kind of that people pleaser or low maintenance mask, where you're always saying yes, you agree with opinions you don't share, you pretend you don't have needs or preferences of your own. It's the I'm fine, it's the whatever you want. It's, getting into that place where, maybe for a wife, she's going to every social event when she's really like an introvert, and that just completely drains her. Or, a husband just saying yes to every decorating idea, even though he doesn't like 27 pillows on the bed. Or, the color. And those are just, again, some of these examples are going to be like, was that really a big deal? Well, in and of themselves, maybe one social incident or, the pillows on the bed, not a big deal. But when it comes from this place of you're always agreeing, or you're always saying yes, or you're always doing something without expressing your own preferences because you're pleasing or you want to be low maintenance, you start to lose yourself. Because it's always about what the other person desires.
Well, and I think we've seen this over the years too, is this can be common early on in marriage. And as we've gotten older, and many of you have as well, this was something commonly done early on in your marriage. And it has continued through. And now you're in your 20th, 25th year, 30th year of marriage, and you're about to explode. And it creates this tension of like, but that's not who I am anymore. And it's why at this point in time, in this place in history where gray divorce is higher than ever. Because so many of us have put the mask on thinking it's okay. And then all of a sudden we hit our 40s, mid 40s, our 50s, and we're like, I don't want to be the people pleaser anymore. I don't want to be the low maintenance wear mask anymore. And instead of being able to work through that with your spouse, it's easier to go, I'm going to take all these masks off. I'm going to get a divorce and I'm going to move on. And we'd rather you not get divorced. We'd rather you stick in the marriage, be in the marriage. Now, I will say this, because I always like to say this. If you're in a physically abusive, sexually abusive, emotionally abusive marriage, please go get help.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about that. If you are, go get help, please. What I'm saying is we get to a point that we put on so many masks, we don't know who we are, so we think it's better to leave the marriage than to begin to take those masks off, work through that with our spouse by our side, or individually for a time being.
Right. We can so lose ourselves behind the masks that we wear. And I think that's, a big aspect of that is that we don't, it feels so easy in the moment. Oh, well, I'll just be this person, or I'll fake this orgasm, which is another mask, right? That's sexual performance when you get into faking enjoyment or confidence in your sexual intimacy. Like I can get into this place where I'm like, oh, it's just this one time or whatever. But one time becomes 10 times, becomes 100 times. And you can get into this place where you feel completely emotionally exhausted from doing this performance.
Yeah, you're just performing.
You're acting in every situation.
You're on stage, and instead of being a human, we are human beings.
But you are doing.
Placing masks on, begins to make it theatrical.
Right. And in that place, you can develop resentment towards your spouse because they don't know you're pretending, but you don't feel like they know you, but you aren't presenting the you that they want to, like, could know. You're presenting the fake you. And so you step into this place where you're resentful of them. You feel lost. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I sit across from, couples that have, men and women who, gotten through those child rearing years and say things like, I don't think my spouse knows who I am. I mean, that even happened when we were on the cruise ship, right? And there was the couple that had been married, 55 years? Was it 55 years on the game show?
Oh, yes.
55. And I remember sitting backstage with her. Here's a woman that's been married 55 years. And she's like, I don't think we're going to get any questions right because I don't think he knows who I am.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, girl.
They actually won.
They did win. But
that's how she felt 55 years in. I remember Elisa telling me that afterwards. I was like, oh,
and I'm not saying that theirs was all masks and stuff like that. I don't know their history. It was, a 30-minute game show. But being in that place of, loss. And that, ultimately those masks start to put this fear inside of you that if you show your real self, if you take off all of those things that you have put on, that you won't be loved or that maybe you're not lovable. And those are some really big fears that need to be addressed because when you're dealing with all of that individually, your spouse, I'm telling you, they've got some sense that something's just not quite right. It is maybe not in the beginning. You're like, they don't know, Lisa. Come on. I fake it once or twice, I'm in this place. I'm always happy. Like I'm fake. Okay, maybe not in the beginning. But when that resentment and your fear and your disconnect start to go because you're questioning all of these things, something's wrong. You get into this place where it's surface level conversations. We get really, really good at logistics. You struggle with intimacy. They struggle with intimacy because, again, you're performing. It's your character. It's how you're fitting into a mold that is showing up, not the real you. And you can get into this place where you're just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and when Elisa says intimacy, as we've shared before, it's that closeness and connection. And so when we say real intimacy, that true closeness and connection, if we look at all 6 pillars of intimacy, can they be close and connected to you in each of those pillars? Or are the masks coming up? And if we were to look at even the 6 pillars of intimacy, we could go down each one of them. And are you putting on masks for certain ones and maybe not for others? Emotional, physical, financial, spiritual, recreational, sexual. So don't forget, true intimacy is closeness and connection. It's not just sex.
Well, and with that, the marriage can look good on the outside. You can individually look good on the outside. But underneath, inside, there's disconnect growing. There are problems building, and your intimacy is dying over time. I see it. I see it when people are like, I haven't said these things to my spouse ever. Or I don't know if I say this, like how they're going to react. And then my counter argument is always like, well, not saying, your authentic self, not stepping into this place is also killing the marriage. So what if we try and actually do this together within the marriage? What if the two of you step into a growth season together? And ultimately it's about moving from performance to authenticity. And I will tell you, it is a super scary step to take. But we've seen it in our own marriage and in countless marriages in the one family that stepping into that place together creates incredible transformation. And we're going to talk about that after this break. This episode of the One Extraordinary Marriage Show is brought to you by Alloy Women's Health. Aging can be hard for women. Problems sleeping, hot flashes, brain fog, weight gain, and decreased libido can hit us pretty hard. I'm in the menopause journey myself and have dealt with symptoms like hot flashes and insomnia. I've used Alloy for about 4 months now and love how easy it is to discuss symptoms and side effects with my doctor and get prescriptions delivered right to my door. Alloy can help you to thrive during menopause and midlife, offering unlimited access to doctors and experts with safe, science-backed treatments for your hormonal symptoms, as well as skin, hair, and sexual wellness treatments. I cannot recommend Alloy enough. Join the 95% of women who tried Alloy and saw relief in the first 2 weeks. Head to myalloy.com/OEM and tell them all about your symptoms, and you'll get a fully customized treatment plan. And you'll get $20 off your first order today. Head to myalloy.com/OEM and enter code OEM to get $20 off your first order.
Mochi Health is a long-term weight loss solution personalized to fit your unique needs and goals. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who are on a mission to listen. Eligible patients can access custom-formulated GLP-1 medications at an affordable, set price and get them delivered to their home each month. No insurance required. FSA and HSA accepted. With 24/7 customer service available, Mochi Health is here to partner with you on your journey to a healthier life. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com.
We're back, and we're discussing how to move from masking to authenticity. And as I said, I know it's scary. I know it's scary because I've done it myself, you guys. Like, I'm not saying this just like hypothetical, like I bet you're all scared. No, because the first thing that you have to do is you have to recognize that you're doing it. You have to own it.
Can I say something here real quick? As we step in here, and I just felt like the Holy Spirit just speaking to me, was begin to pray. And the prayer is to allow the Holy Spirit to move you. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of this work, we can try and do it on our own strength, on our own ability. And more times than not, we're going to be right back where we started. Mm-hmm. But when we allow the Holy Spirit to move, right, and we listen to its promptings, and we begin to settle in and go, okay, Lord, what do I need to do? Because I can't do this in my own strength. And one of my favorite verses, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Mm-hmm. And so leaning on him for your strength allows you to authentically be who you are and who you were created to be. I'm not saying it's easy. And yet I do believe there are times when we will strive instead of sit down, allow the Holy Spirit to move us. Because there may be many that you have on, and you may be reeling, like, how do I do this? Again, you don't have to do it in your own strength. Mm-hmm. Begin to pray. Begin to allow the Holy Spirit to unmask you.
Yeah. And that starts with, some questions in that quiet time of, hey, what do I hide? What parts of my personality? Where do I say yes when I really mean no? What interests or preference have I kept secret for fear that they would be rejected or, maybe not accepted? What conversations do I avoid just to keep the peace? And that kind of comes back to the whole Tender Topics episode.
And last week where we were talking sex talk even. Like these are the last two episodes, honestly, brought us to this point where we're like,
let's pull it all together.
Tender topics are a real thing. Sex talk is a real thing. And yet, if we're wearing these masks, then are we authentically being who we are and telling our spouse what we want, what we enjoy, without like being judged or looked at funny? Because there may be something that you do enjoy. And I'm just going back to the sex talk.
Right.
But being open, honest, and transparent and having the conversation with your spouse is like, hey, I want to express where I am. And in that, you can take off your mask and not be judging me. If it's something that like you have not thought about. And believe me, this has happened in mine and Elisa's relationship, in our marriage. Like there are things that maybe I say or she says and I'm like, what? Like never crossed my mind. And yet tell me more, because you are willing to take off that mask and I'm willing to be a participant in your journey.
As you start to, be in this place where you are recognizing where and when you mask, coming out of that, like you're not just going to rip the masks off and be like, okay, hey, here's who I am. Nah, it doesn't work. That's terrifying. Instead, it's all about baby steps. I mean, there's a reason that baby steps concept in the book, The 6 Pillars of Intimacy, when I wrote it, it was so significant because we talk about baby steps all the time, right? So what are your baby steps with authenticity? Like, what does it look like to start small? And maybe, when your spouse is like, hey, I want to go to this restaurant, and you're like, I actually don't like that place. Or that's not what I'm in the mood for. Or maybe you express a different opinion. Right? You've always just gone along because it's easier just to go along. And instead you're like, I actually have a different opinion and I want to share that with you. Or, if you are married to an extrovert and it's like, let's go. And you're like, honestly, I need a little downtime. I need to plug my battery in because I get charged in quiet time, not in the constant. This is one that Tony and I have had to navigate many times over the years because I have gone along with being that social butterfly with him. I've tried to wear that mask, and especially early in our marriage, I had to learn that like I can only go for so long before I'm like, I need to retreat. I need quiet. And that was a big old like, Tony's like, well, what do you mean you're not like this?
Yeah.
Right. What do you mean? And I'm like, nah, I am definitely an extroverted introvert. I can bring it all together.
I think you're an introvert extrovert. You're more introverted. Your extrovert will come out when necessary, but you tend and lean towards the introvert.
Right. So an extroverted introvert.
Oh, you're an extroverted introverted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No. Don't put the ED on the introvert.
Oh.
Extrovert is my adjective.
Okay.
But introvert is my kind of general state of being.
Ah, got it.
You are definitely an extrovert.
Am I?
You don't think so? You don't think so? As you start to break free of that, you're going to even be able to get a greater sense of your patterns, right? Because for some of you, you've been married for quite a while and you've been doing these masks, putting them on, wearing them in so many situations for such a long time that it's going to take some time to undo. Please don't, again, you're not just ripping off the mask and being like, this is who I am. But it's like, what are the patterns? Right? What are those things that you can communicate to your spouse? Like even going so far as to say, I'm working on being more authentic. And like, I'm going to step into a place where I'm going to express preferences for dinner, or I'm going to, step into a place where I actually have a different opinion. It doesn't mean the marriage is over if you have a different opinion. It just means that the two of you are stepping into this place and recognize this is going to be an adjustment period for both of you.
Absolutely.
Like, everybody's kind of gotten used to the status quo and the way things have been. So it shakes things up when you start to say, I'm taking off my masks.
I've said it before. Like when we get into those ruts, we're like a car driving down a dirt road and the wheels are in that rut. And over time, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and it gets harder and harder and harder to get out of that rut. So as you begin to get out of that rut, it begins to shake the walls. And like there's going to be some vibration trying to get out of it with your truck, And so don't think this is just happy-go-lucky and it's like, oh, okay, no big deal. Like, but no, there's going to be some friction. There's going to be some shaking. It's going to happen. The thing is, I think we got to look at, is it worth it to you? And that's a big question, I think, sometimes in marriage. Is it worth it to you? For some of you, you're going to go like, no, not at all. And that's okay. It's your marriage. As we always say, you do you. Like, this is your marriage. You don't need to be Tony and Elisa. You don't need to be your next door neighbor or your parents or whoever it may be. You need to have your marriage. So some of you are listening to this going like, nah, we're good. Okay. Some of you are like, that sounds really good, but I'm not sure. And others of you are like, I'm just going to start taking this off because I'm in so much pain and I'm so much distress. I don't want to live like this anymore. Wherever you are, you're on your own journey. So just realize and understand around this area of our marriage is that some of you are going to respond differently. Your spouse is going to respond differently. The way Elisa and I respond to one another is different. In our 28 years of marriage, we have put on masks. We have taken them off. We have put them back on. We have taken them off. New ones have come back on. And then we've had to take off old ones. It doesn't end. I mean, does it get better for us? And has it gone better? Absolutely. But every time we come to a place where we're like, wow, we've been just sort of throwing these things on to please one another, or it's a bit bristly and it's tough. So do know as you walk into this,
this is not a rainbows and unicorns exercise.
It really, really isn't.
And that's where, finding a professional that the two of you can work with, be it a marriage coach, counselor, therapist, finding somebody that you can process this with and process, individually, but also as a couple, can be a game changer, because there's a lot that comes with, especially the spouse that has been masking for a really long time, like figuring all of that out and figuring out how to present themselves, and even inviting that mutual authenticity. Like, what mask, because you might be thinking this is all about you, and you might start having this conversation with your spouse, and they're like, well, actually, I've been wearing these masks. Right? I've been acting this way around you. And the two of you are going to have to learn new ground rules on how to interact with one another. Because it is going to be bristly, to use Tony's word. It is going to be uncomfortable. But what I share so often in coaching sessions is what's on the other side of that breakthrough. What's on the other side of being known for the real person that you are, for learning how to love one another through this unmasking and learning, because most of the time people don't identify their masks. It's been my experience. This is all anecdotal, no research done here, but most of the time the masks don't get identified or start to come off until many, many years into a marriage, where you have all of this life together. Maybe you've brought children into the world. Maybe it's been, just decades of time together. And it's not that all of those memories are false, but it's learning, okay, how do we step into a new place together, because we do have all this history? And what does it look like to authentically love one another, the real person? And to step into a place, and again, I said at the beginning, a lot of the reasons why we put masks on is because we don't necessarily know if we're lovable, who we are, but what if you are? And I would venture to say that until you've taken those masks off and allowed yourself to be loved, then it's just this, it's like being on a hamster wheel. And it's exhausting for you and for the marriage. And so stepping into this place, and that would be my encouragement, again, my heart broke. I mean, my heart breaks anytime, somebody tells me that they've been wearing masks for a really long time. Not because I stand in judgment of that, but because I know the weight of that in our own marriage. I know I've done it with finances in the past where, I put on a mask of, hey, we're all good. We're all good. We're all good. We are not good. Right? I've done it sexually in our marriage. And so when somebody tells me about their masks, my heart breaks, because I know that you question whether you're lovable. And I know you're not sure, and I know you're scared. But I also know that there is a strength that comes when you take off those masks and you say, you know what, I'm going to show up as my authentic self. And I'm going to trust that we can get through this together. I'm going to trust that as hard as it might get, that there's something for us on the other side. And sometimes it just starts with that baby step. It's one baby step, another baby step, and another baby step, until you get to a place where you've got the strength to run together.
Yeah. We've talked about masks, gosh, I think from the beginning of the One Extraordinary Marriage show. And over the years, I think we've seen it happen many a times for those of you in the one family and for ourselves. And over the last couple of weeks, with the topics we've covered and everything we've been discussing, and Elisa with her coaching clients, we needed to bring this up again, because it's easy and we want to do all the great grandioso things. And yet if we don't take off these masks and truly get to live, then we can feel a little numb. And I would say, if you're in this spot, please get help. If you'd like to look at coaching with Elisa, you can go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coaching. Apply. There's no obligation. Here's the thing though. When you start something, as Elisa said, it begins to snowball, and you gain momentum, and you gain freedom, and you allow the Holy Spirit to move, and things can just, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, you're looking back going like, holy cow, look where we are. And so with that, take some time this week. If you're ready to step into this and ready to look at the masks and go, enough's enough. It's time to start taking them off one by one. And maybe this week alone, just look at one of them that maybe it's time to remove and become who you truly are and who God has made you to be. You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. We're truly honored and blessed to have you part of the One family. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.